begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance led by students from Lincoln School, and I'd like to invite them up right now. Mrs. Kneppel. Mrs. Kneppel, are your kids ready?
We're ready.
Mrs. Kneppel, are your kids ready?
Good evening, Dr. Thompson, Board President Mrs. Babcock, board members and audience members. My name is Mary Beth Kneppel, and I'm the proud principal of Lincoln School. Before we do the pledge, I would like to tell you a little bit about this wonderful group of grade 4 and grade 5 students from Lincoln School who are involved in a STEM initiative under the tutelage of Mrs. Carol Kutsiewka, our LRC director at Lincoln School. The STEM initiative is a wonderful example of collaboration and also preparing our students for 21st century skills. Not only did our students work with one another, but Lincoln parent Marilyn So partnered with Carol to bring employees from Yaskana Technologies to Lincoln to host STEM think tank workshops for grade 4 and grade 5 students. So I would like to introduce quickly, if I may, these students: Claire Chang, Verena Hanna, Guntis Kaur, Daniel Kahn, Faith McMahon, Isaac Menning, Nadia Metzo, Callie O'Connell, Jack Oswald, Marissa Parcham, Christina Salaturo, Leticia Solomon, Jocelyn Turan, Joylyn Turan, Brianna Truong, Fabian Vargas, and Florence Abu, who are here tonight. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Kutsiewka.
Thank you so much for inviting us to be here tonight. We're excited to share all the new and interesting things happening in our LRC. Lincoln LRC is not a quiet place. Instead, my focus is on inspiring learning and creativity, sharing what we know and how we learn. I have created a place for innovators, inventors, problem solvers in Lincoln's LRC, a makerspace. It is a vibrant place to collaborate, learn, and grow together. Students embrace challenges at various stations throughout the space with Legos, Connects, Snap Circuits, Little Bits, old computers, crafting materials, or they follow their own passion and learn something that they want to learn. I also run 4 coding clubs for grades 2 through 6, teach a Scratch programming class to second graders, and assist interested students learning how to control our robots, which we got through Donors Choose projects. In addition, we have STEM challenges both with classes, through centers, and at the different makerspace stations as well. They learn how to identify problems, communicate, evaluate, and refine their ideas in our makerspace. Our library invites curiosity, inspires wonder, and students gain confidence, deal with failure, and celebrate successes. Students are enthusiastic learners and problem solvers, ready for any future career challenges. As a community partnership, we began working with Yoskawa Corporation of Buffalo Grove, who hosted 2 workshops for 4th and 5th grade students. Activities were hands-on, interactive, and exciting, introducing students to different aspects of engineering and applications in careers. Here to share a few highlights from their experience are some of those 80 students who participated this year. This is Guntas.
The motor station was really fun because the person who ran the station experimented with the wire. The wire kept moving and he said it would go on for hours, so that was a cool and amazing experiment. We got materials to make a motor at home too.
I thought that it was interesting when he made the table sing with a tuning fork, because sound is a vibration, and vibrations can travel through a sound. It was cool to see what was inside of a computer. I saw all the wires and it was very interesting.
It was cool to see how 9 pieces of cardboard and tinfoil cut into penny shapes could stack together with pennies to make a battery. We were able to light up a small light with just those things.
Thank you. And now to join us, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, keep doing work. Grateful about those STEM activities. And many colors.
STEM project.
Thanks for sharing. Nice job.
We'll move on.
Yes.
I make a motion, we appoint Dr. Thompson as president pro tempore. I second that motion.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I make a motion to appoint Jean Becker as Secretary Pro Tem.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order, and Ms. Becker, we do a roll call, please.
Babcock? Here. Chapman? Eckberg?
Here.
Khan?
Here.
Morrison? Here. Seifert?
Here.
Green?
Here.
So each year we have an organizational meeting where we elect the officers for the board, so that's what we're going to do tonight. And I'd like to open up the nominations for president of the board.
I make a motion to nominate Mrs. Babcock, president of the Board of Education. Second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, then I declare Mrs. Babcock the president. I turn the meeting over to her gladly.
Thank you. Election of the Board of Education Vice President. May I have nomination, please, for the Vice President of our board?
I make a motion to nominate James Eckberg to serve as Vice President of the Board of Education.
Second.
Any other nominations? There being no further nominations, I declare Dr. Eckberg as the Vice President. Moving on to election of the Board of Education Secretary. Are there any motions, please? I would nominate Dave Seifert as to serve as Secretary of the Board of Education.
Second.
Any other nominations? There being no further nominations, I declare Mr. Seifert as our Secretary. May I have the motion to establish, please, the time and place of the regular Board of Education meetings?
I make a motion to approve the regular meetings of the Board of Education through June 30, 2016 be held at the times and places indicated on the 2015-16 schedule as revised and the proposed 2016-17 schedule.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call. Seifert?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye.
Eckberg?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison? Aye.
Motion carries. Item 16508, may I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to adopt and enforce all rules, regulations, and policies of the preceding Board of Education, and to adopt and enforce all necessary rules for management and governance of schools of Community Consolidated School District 15, Palatine, Cook County, Illinois.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Green?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye.
Eckberg?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
And a roll call. Babcock? Aye. Eckberg?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Green.
Aye.
Okay, we are going to go right into our regular Board of Education meeting. Should we do a roll call one more time, please? Babcock? Here. Chapman? Eckberg?
Here.
Khan?
Here.
Morrison? Here. Seifert?
Here.
Green.
Here.
We are always mindful of the mission statement of District 15, which is to produce world-class learners by building a connected learning community. Item 3 is our superintendent reports.
So we have some pretty fun and exciting recognitions, student recognitions, and some adult recognitions in my section today. We're going to start with Matt Weidman, and Matt Weidman is our coordinator of math and science. And Matt is going to bring up some students that have made some significant accomplishments in the areas of math and science. Dr. Schnorr? Dr. Schnorr? Corey, could you maybe go behind the door there and
There we go.
Mr. Weidman?
Good evening, President Babcock, Dr. Thompson, and members of the Board of Education. It is my honor to introduce the students and sponsors who demonstrated outstanding achievement at several district-endorsed math and science competitions during the 2015-16 school year. Thank you. Students, as I call your name, please approach Dr. Thompson. Dr. Thompson will have a special memento for you in recognition of your accomplishment. Illinois Junior Academy of Science and Engineering Fair, these are our regional medalists. From Plum Grove, we have Arnav A. He's an 8th grader. Will filters made from organic materials improve the quality of water? Ambrosia I, 8th grade, Plum Grove. How do background colors affect what we see? Shrusty J, 8th grader, Plum Grove. The effect of temperature on the viscosity of liquids. Varun K, 8th grader at Plum Grove. Improving fuel cells. Varun's project also was a U.S. Naval Award winner for environmental science. Satej S. and Sean R., 8th graders, Plum Grove. The effect of different liquids on plant growth. Rebecca W., 8th grader, Plum Grove. Does caffeine affect growth rate of plants? Jolene C. and Pavon P., 7th graders at Plum Grove. Colors, changing your heart rate, blood pressure, and mood. Maya N., 7th grader at Plum Grove. Is whitening toothpaste better than regular toothpaste? Santo A., 8th grader at Sundling. What effect does listening to music have on math test scores? Rahul K., 8th grader, Sundling. Which liquid prevents the browning of food the best? John L. and Matt R., 8th graders, Sundling. What effect do human pain relievers have on plant growth? Leah W. and Tess B., 8th graders at Winston Campus Junior High. Chemistry of ice cream, lowering the freezing point of water. The Science Fair medalist sponsors, we have from Plum Grove, Anna Kamath. From Walter Sundling, Chris Lucht. And from Winston Campus Junior High, we have Pranita Narachania. Please join me in congratulating all the Science Fair medalists. We also have a You Be the Chemist Challenge regional competitors. These are 8th graders. From Plum Grove, we have Siddharth A., finished in 4th place, and he finished in 7th place at the state competition. Rahul K. from Sundling, 8th place. Go ahead and approach Dr. Thompson, and he has a memento for you. Rahul K. from Sundling, 8th place. Hugo T. from Winston Campus Junior High, 12th place. We have Caleb B. from Sunling, 13th place. Sharon W. from Sunling, 25th place. We have Gurpreet S. from Winston Campus Junior High, 30th place. The UB the Chemist sponsors, we have Erica Smith. Kinlan, hold on a second. From Sunling, we have Erica Smith, and then from Winston Campus Junior High, we have Pranita Narachania. Please join me in congratulating all the UB the Chemist competitors. We have a very special recognition tonight. This is Kinlan P. He's an 8th grader at Winston Campus Junior High. His math count sponsor is Ralph Benaziak. Kinlan finished among the top 3 students in the regional UB the Chemist Challenge and finished as the first runner-up at the state competition. This accomplishment is noteworthy because 45 students had survived 2 rounds of eliminations to reach the state competition, and as first runner-up, Kinlan is also the first alternate for the national competition. Kinlan also secured a spot on the 2016 Illinois National Math Counts team after taking first place in the state math counts competition held on March 19th in Lisle. Kinlan and the other top 4 finishers in the state participated in the national competition this past weekend in Washington, D.C., where Kinlan finished 44th out of 224 entrants. The Illinois team finished 15th place overall. Kinlan finished 2nd overall for the 2nd year in a row at the February North Suburban chapter of Illinois Society of Professional Engineers Math Counts individual competition and 2nd in the oral countdown round. Kinlan had placed 1st in the oral countdown round the previous 2 years at the chapter contest. Kinlan, I know that your teachers, sponsors, administrators are so very proud of all that you've accomplished during your time here in District 15, and they want to wish you the best of luck as you enter the next phase of your academic career. Please join me in congratulating Kinlan on all of his accomplishments. Our Math Counts team achievements. From Plum Grove, we have a sixth place finish team at the state competition. This Plum Grove team is sponsored by Minerva Milford. Here's the Plum Grove team. We have Eileen P., Napoon V., Sean R., and Stella C. Plum Grove, if you would just go ahead and please approach Dr. Thompson. He's got a memento for you. We also have a Sunling team. The Sunling team finished 11th at the state competition. The Sunling team is sponsored by Lori Majewski. The Sunling team is Ryan T., Sharon W., Cindy C., Rahul K., and the alternate is Utkarsh R. That's the Sunling team. The Math Counts individual team achievement winners. We already know about Kinlan. Kinlan finished in first place. From Plum Grove, Sean R., 15th place. Is Sean here? No?
Mr. Whiteman, they're not making it around the circle quite quick enough to...
I'll slow down.
Just bear with me.
Thank you.
Kinlan made it there.
From the Winston Campus Junior High, first place, Kinlan P. Sean R., 8th grade, Plum Grove, 15th place. Stella C., 7th grade, Plum Grove, 27th place. Eileen P., 8th grade, Plum Grove, 37th place. Ryan T., 8th grade, Walter Sunling, 46th place. Cindy C., 8th grade at Walter Sunling, 47th place. Please join me in acknowledging all of our Math Counts competitors. Dr. Thompson, if you haven't already received your memento. Thank you. Last, we have our Illinois Math League teams. Okay. First of all, we have our team winners from Our overall first place winner, this was out of, I believe, 78 schools. The overall team winner was Frank Whiteley, sponsored by Kathy Cochran. Third place was a tie. We have Jennifer Clark from Marion Jordan, and also Risa Cohen from Pleasant Hill. Central Road, sixth place, sponsored by Lynn Garb. Hunting Ridge, 13th place, sponsored by Sonia Nielsen. And then Winston Campus Elementary was finished in a tie for 21st place. This team was sponsored by Beth Etchingham. Individual sixth grade team achievement winners. From Frank Whiteley, we have Albert J., who finished in a first place tie. And then as I call your name, folks, just kind of walk over to Dr. Thompson. He has a memento for you. Okay, thank you. Also from Frank Whiteley, we have Aaron K., who finished in a first place tie. From Marion Jordan, first place tie, Andrew T. Fifth place from Pleasant Hill, Andrew D. Fifth place from Pleasant Hill, ZY J. Fifth place tie from Frank Whiteley, Richard M. 12th place from Central Road, Sanjeev D.
Yeah, they're all at their orchestra concert, except that
15th place, we have a tie, Central Road, Joey H. From Central Road. From Frank Whiteley, we have Anish M. And from Marion Jordan, we have Harish P. and Pranav P., all 15th place. 21st place, tie, Central Road, Lily K. From Pleasant Hill, Garrick K. And from Pleasant Hill, Braden R. Also from Frank Whiteley, we have Rohan R., all for 21st place. And also from Hunting Ridge, we have Sophia Z., 21st place. Please join me in congratulating all of our math bowl competitors and their sponsors. Thank you all so much.
The next item in my section is the recognition of the students that were sent to state for the PTSA Reflections contest. And I'd like to ask Julie Holdeman to come up and recognize those winners.
Hi, everybody. My name is Julie Holdman. I'm the Northwest Suburban Council President, and I also acted as the Interim Reflections Chair for our council. Good evening, President Babcock, Board of Education, Dr. Thompson, and guests. Tonight, we would like to introduce some creative and talented District 15 students who participated in the PTA Reflections competition and whose work advanced to the state and national levels. This past school year, nearly 300,000 students in over 8,000 schools across the country and in the U.S. overseas contributed their original works to be considered for the PTA's highest honor in the arts. The group represented tonight created works of art which began a journey here in a competition at the Northwest Suburban Council in District 15. These artists then moved up to the PTA District 37 competition and up again to the State of Illinois competition. We even had 4 students whose original artworks went on to be judged at the national level. Theirs were among 1,000 pieces of art in the final round of the PTA Reflections competition. Tonight we honor their achievements. We're going to call our students to come forward. Brianna W. Oh. Let's see. Kelly W. Emily L. Stella C. These were our 4 projects that moved on to the national competition level. Congratulations. The projects which moved from the District 37 region to the state level are as follows. Alexander C. Rhea M. Zachary M. Niranjan K. Kelsey R. Jace C. Mitchell O. Monica O. Shruti P. Varun R. Aylin R. Solomon K. Jashan S. Jonathan S. Kira T. Maria U. and Antonio V. These students all did projects, and the theme for this year was Let Your Imagination Fly, and boy did they ever. Congratulations all for being recognized at the state and national level.
We're going to move now to a couple recognitions of some adults. That was fun to see all those students and all the accomplishments. Very impressive. We had two individuals from our organization that were honored at the Illinois Annual Convention. The Northwest Suburban Council PTA and PTSA President Julie O'Hara was recognized as the 2000... Julie Holdeman. Sorry, Julie. Julie Holdeman was recognized as the 2016 Outstanding Volunteer for the entire state. Julie worked tirelessly and almost nonstop for the last 2 years. And even before that, she's been a member of the PTA for many, many years, doing tremendous work at Virginia Lake and throughout the district. She's moving on now to work at the state level because she's so invested. But she really fulfills the purpose of making sure that the children's experience in the district is as positive as possible. And she is a model PTA member. And we want to ask Julie to come up tonight to be recognized as our own Volunteer of the Year. We also were honored to have the 2016 Outstanding Teacher of the Year. Jennifer Musianti was recognized downstate as well for her contributions to the PE department at Lincoln School. Jennifer works tirelessly to make sure that her students are staying fit, eat healthy, and that they enjoy what they're doing and they're creating lifelong skills. And the Illinois PTA saw the things that she's been doing in her classes for the kids at Lincoln School, and they wanted to recognize her as the Outstanding PE Teacher of the Year, Outstanding Teacher of the Year. So is Jennifer here tonight? There she is. These are very impressive awards. We're really proud of you. Thank you for doing so much for our kids. We gave you the Above and Beyond pins that have been given to only a few select people in the district over the years, and so you are two lucky, fortunate people, but we think you've earned them. And the Board of Education would like to thank you personally, so if you go up and shake their hands as you leave, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Julie Holdeman. Next item in my section is a presentation by Mike Adamczyk on the amended budget.
Good evening, President Babcock, Superintendent Thompson, members of the board. I've got a real brief presentation to make on our amended budget for fiscal year 16, which is the current school year. We're only hitting two funds, amending two funds. Debt service fund proposed to increase expenditures by $1,893,152, which will reduce our ending fund balance by a like amount. What the district did when it sold its health life safety bonds, in order to keep the cost of the issuance down and the cost of the taxpayers down, the district, along with our advisors, decided to utilize about 50% of the existing fund balance in the debt service fund, which is a little about $2.2 million. So we're going to use $1.9 million almost for the May 1 interest payment, and then there'll be about another $300,000 or $400,000 on our December 1 payment, so we'll see that in next year's budget. And then the Health Life Safety Fund, we want to recognize the revenues that the district will realize by selling the Health Life Safety bonds. So total bond proceeds were $18.5 million. I really didn't want a $18 million budget variance in our financial statements at the end of the year. So we thought best if we amend the Health Life Safety Fund to recognize the revenues, which is really the proceeds on the receipt of the bonds. Expenditures at 2.7. So that's the work, the majority of the work. So the board has approved total bids for the summer of 16, $14,111,000. We estimate about 2.7 will be spent between now and June 30. The vast majority of that obviously will be then spent over the summer. We'll have an ending balance of 15.8, but then between 16 and 17, that fund balance will go to zero as we spend money. And that's really just the accounting of what those two budget amendments look like. So again, it's utilizing debt service fund balance to keep down the cost of the issuance, to keep the cost down to the taxpayers, and the debt fund and Health Life Safety Fund to recognize the revenue on the proceeds, and to calculate expenditures that the district will incur between now and June 30.
Any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. There are just three more items in my section I wanted to touch on tonight. One of my goals for this year was to investigate the feasibility and cost associated with implementing full-day kindergarten. As you're aware, District 15 does not offer full-day kindergarten. It's falling behind most of the state. I think almost 90% of the districts in the state offer full-day kindergarten. We don't. So we did a little investigation to see how much it would cost and what we would need to implement full-day kindergarten. I provided you with some information, but I'll just highlight some of those right now. If we were to increase our kindergarten from half-day to full-day, we would need at least an additional 22 teachers. Each year we have to kind of estimate how many students are going to be in our kindergarten program. And what happens is there are a number of parents that decide to enroll their children in private kindergarten programs so they can be full day, and then they enroll them in first grade in our program. And so we have to kind of gauge on how many students we think would utilize full-day kindergarten if we were offering it. And so we think we need at least an additional 22 teachers, an average cost of about $55,000 a year. That's a $1.2 million increase to our budget every year. So it's a fairly significant chunk of money that we would have to try to figure out how we would fund if we were offering full-day kindergarten. Probably more significant, though, than the $1.2 million is that we would need at least another 22 additional classrooms. We don't have enough classroom space right now in our existing buildings to house full-day kindergartens. We've been converting computer labs and other spaces into classrooms because of the overcrowding in many of our schools as it is. I would say all of our schools are either at or over capacity that are being used for those 1 through 6th grade spaces right now, and those kindergarten spaces that are being shared with an AM and PM section. So there's a significant cost associated with going to full-day kindergarten, and I just wanted to make you aware of that. We'll talk in a minute about the Facilities Plan Committee that has recommended to the board that they think that we could create some space and offer full-day kindergarten. So that's my report. Does anyone have any questions about the cost and space requirements for going to full-day kindergarten? Okay, I'll move on to the Facilities Plan Committee proposal. This is an update on that proposal. I've been hearing a number of positive thoughts about the report that was made by the Facilities Plan Committee last meeting. People think that it makes a lot of sense. It seems like it's something that they wish would have been done a long time ago. A lot of people want full-day kindergarten, and it seems to be that the alignment of the schools, the things that were suggested by the committee are really striking a nerve in the community, that people feel very supportive of it. This board asked me to kind of do some investigation in that, and so tonight I want to report to you that I have been in discussions with the Palatine Park District, and we have been talking with them about the possibility of doing a land swap so that it wouldn't cost us, the taxpayers, any money to buy land to build a new school in Northeast Palatine. And we are in conversations with the Park District. They're very interested in working with us to allow us to build a school on the Falcon Park site. Gymnasium would already be there. We would have to build the classroom spaces, connect to the gymnasium. We'd have a partnership with them. And then we would turn over to them Sanborn School, and they could use that right across from the Park District facility. Right now, they have a campus there, and our school is in the middle of their campus, and they could expand their campus there. So they're very interested in doing that. And what we're doing right now is we're getting appraisals for both pieces of property so that we have that to kind of work on, and we'll continue to work on the specifics of a proposal to move forward with a joint agreement and a shared space and a swap of land, and I will bring that back to you. But right now we're in the process of getting the appraisals, so we have the appraisals of both properties to kind of work with as we move forward. But it's very exciting. I mean, it's very exciting. The Park District built Falcon Park because they know that that's an area that they want to service. There's a, for us, it houses over 22% of our students in that area up there in Northeast Palatine. We don't have any schools up there. We could reduce a lot of busing, and the Park District was more than willing to work with us. They're excited to see if we can do some things differently up there and creatively up there. So that's the update on the facilities plan proposal at this point. Any questions or thoughts?
And to be very clear, we're just working on the proposal, right?
Yeah, no, there's nothing etched in stone, and I'll come back and I'll share what the appraisals were. I'll talk about the discussions we continue to have with the Park District, and we'll have a more formalized idea of what the overall plan could be if the board were to decide to move forward with it. So I'll bring something back in June. The last item in my section is just a discussion about the salary schedules. As you're aware, we use the same process this time as we have in previous contracts. The agreements are made, the terms of the agreement are agreed upon and passed by both the teachers and the Board of Education, and then thereafter the groups work on the language, send it to the attorneys, and make sure that everything is correct before they publish it and sign off on it. The last time, the 2012-2016 contract, the board approved it in June. Salary schedules were out a couple days later. There were only 4 years of salary schedules there. We've got 10 years with this one. And then in November, 5 months later, the final draft of the contract was approved by both sides. It was run past the attorneys. Both parties signed, and then we published it and made it available. So, we're hoping to expedite that process this time. We have the contract language at our attorneys right now, and it should be at the IEA attorneys as well. They're reviewing it. It would be irresponsible to kind of release that until it's actually had attorney review. We certainly wouldn't want to jeopardize the district. But tonight, we have agreement on the finalized salary schedule, so we'd like to release those. There's been some requests for those, and I think the board has an interest in getting things out as soon as possible. So the contract, is, I think it's certainly evoked a few emotions in the district, and I think it's unfortunate that it comes on the heels of a property tax reassessment. District 15 is responsible for about 35% of the property taxes, and we understand that they continue to go up. But we feel like that this is a very strong contract, that even though it's unusual in its length, the ability to keep our costs below 1% annually for salaries is really unheard of. I mean, it's very difficult to do, and very few districts can do it. I've talked to districts that are jealous that we were able to keep our salary costs below 1%. There are other costs that we were able to lower as well, and we think that this is a very positive contract that is going to be written for the community. We think it'll stabilize our costs going forward for a long time. Now, with any contract, there's compromise, and there are things in there that if we could have dictated all the terms, it would be different. But it's a compromise, and we had to work towards the good of the community. And we feel strongly this is going to put us in a strong financial position going forward. The salary schedules that we're going to release tonight, that I'll ask you to approve the release of tonight, they have been looked at by both sides, and they show an average increase of 2.5% for the first 4 years and 4% for the last 6 years. But part of the contract is that teachers at the higher end of the salary schedule that make the most money, those are the ones that we're encouraging to retire early so that we can hire less expensive teachers, and that would reduce our costs, and that's why we're able to keep it below 1%. It's all part of the whole package of compromising. We also, there are 10 years of two schedules. We have a Tier 2 schedule still and a Tier 1 schedule. 10 years of both of those. People will see after the year 2019-2020 year that salary lane 20, the last lane on the schedule, drops off. And what we did there is we removed that, and we created 2 longevity steps. So instead of just taking 1 year to get to that bottom line, it takes 2 now, saves the school district about $450,000 just by adding that extra step. Is that right, Mike? $450,000?
About $1.5 million.
$1.5 million, thank you. $1.5 million by adding that extra step. And so we'll release the schedules tonight, but part of the salary structure will be in an article in the contract that won't be released until all the language has been reviewed by our attorneys. I think the board and the administration took this job very seriously. We feel for real estate taxpayers, and we want to keep our costs down. Our per pupil spending is right at the state average. It's lower than most school districts around us. I think we're doing a really good job, and it's not a perfect agreement, but we think it's a pretty good agreement, and that's why we went for it. And we continue to listen to people respond about the contract. I do think that the media, in their desire to get their hands on the actual contract language, incited some emotions that were unnecessary. I think it was a little misleading, and it was unfortunate. We've tried to answer all the questions that people have, give as much information as we can, but it would just be irresponsible of me to give the contract language before our attorneys have a chance to review it and make sure that it's protecting the interests of the community. So tonight, we'll release those to anyone that wants to see those. I'll be open to answer any questions that people have about that, and I hope that people will be able to see that a less than 1% increase on salaries is a very good thing for the community going forward. That's it for my section.
Okay, before we go on to reading and acceptance of the minutes, the comment request to address the board is at the front vestibule. If you'll turn them into Mrs. Becker, our secretary, that will be coming up shortly in the meeting. We're going to move on to reading and acceptance of the minutes. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings of the Board of Education, April 13, 2016, regular Board of Ed meeting as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Babcock?
Aye.
Eckberg?
Aye.
Kahn?
Aye.
Morrison? Aye. Seaver?
Aye.
Gurian?
Aye.
Moving on to motion carries. Moving on to item 5, board discussion and reports. Ed read, I know Dr. Chapman is not here this evening. Anything to report on that?
We keep monitoring the activity in Springfield. This morning we were at breakfast with Leslie Munger, the state comptroller, and she talked about the legislative action that's occurred this year, and it's kind of embarrassing. They passed legislation that you can't carry around a flamethrower that shoots more than 10 feet. We've got a new state artifact.
Yes.
They've passed a number of things that really are very meaningless. It's embarrassing. The Senate did pass school funding reform, and it's going to go to the House, and we'll see what happens within the House. But the governor certainly indicated that he's not interested in producing a document a law that creates winners and losers. We continue to monitor, and we continue to work with our legislators, and we'll let you know what's happening.
It was a very interesting breakfast with the controller, and she had a lot of empathy of what's going on, and her big thing was to get to the communities and the people out in the communities to really let your state reps and your state senators know that we should not be happy where the state is going. And she says the more voices you can get out there and let people know, the better we off are. So she was pretty adamant about it. She came out of the business world. She's been there less than 11 months, and she's pretty adamant about getting some things turned around, and she's positive about it. But we need to speak up and get to our legislators and let them know, where they're failing us. So
she indicated that the non-for-profits are one of the groups that are hurting the most because they rely on a small chunk of funding from the state, but they're getting nothing. And it takes a long time for those social networks, those social service networks to develop. And once they go down, they don't come back, really. It takes years and years to develop them. And so she's fearful that some of those things that are helping some of our most vulnerable people in the community are not going to be able to survive this budget crisis.
I got the best comment I heard out of the whole morning was where she has put the legislators' pay. I mean, she's put it on hold until we get some things straightened out. We're in line with everything else, and she's getting a lot of weird looks from the legislators, and a lot of grief from them. But she thought that was a great way to get them to act and start moving. So
she thought it was fair.
Yep.
She vouchers their pays and puts it in line with everybody else that's been waiting for their checks, and so they don't get to the top of the line; they go to the bottom. So
great to see someone like that in there.
Yeah.
Okay. District 15 Educational Foundation.
The foundation has their flower fundraiser May 14th and 15th in conjunction with True Value this Saturday and Sunday, May 14th and May 15th at True Value. And then the other part we have is the Got to Run for Education program, or run that happens May 21st. Early registration goes till the 15th. Right now, I looked at the numbers, I think we're at 163 students from the district to participate so far. So I would assume we'll be north of 200 or 250 students to run. So it looks like it'll be another good program for the Got to Run people.
Okay, thank you. Item 16522, the committee appointments. If I may, I would like to table that. We have some new committees that we were discussing. I'd like to have some discussions with administration and to find out what our board members are really interested in as well. So if I could, later on, if we could just table that committee appointments, I'll be ready for it for next month. But I'd like to wait on those for right now. Any problem with that?
No.
Okay. Board policy, Dr. Barbini.
Good evening, Dr. Thompson, President Babcock, and members of the Board of Education. This evening, 5 policies related to student discipline are being introduced for first reading. Each of these 5 policies do have significant revisions in order to comport with state law, and the changes need to go into effect by the fall of 2016, which is literally right around the corner. One of the requirements associated with the new state law that's governing these changes requires school districts to develop something called the Parent, Teacher, and Administrator Advisory Committee. And we did just that. Myself and 13 other members of the community met 3 times to take a look at PRESS, which is our policy subscription service through the Illinois Association of School Boards. We reviewed the revisions to the 5 existing policies, and we also learned about the law known as Senate Bill 100, which is really requiring public school districts and boards of education to make those revisions. Now, this parent-teacher Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee, once again, is a requirement, and it's an advisory body to the board. The board ultimately sets policy. We were just doing our job in terms of providing you with some advice in terms of what you're going to be doing in terms of a next step at first reading and then moving towards second reading. The reason why the timing is the way it is, we received our updates through the Illinois Association of School Boards in late March. So this committee assembled and met pretty much throughout the month of April. We met 3 times. There was homework for each of those meetings, and what's presented before you represents the effort of that group. And I do feel that it's important to acknowledge each of the members of the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee by name, because they really contributed at a high level in terms of not only learning about the changes in the law, also reviewing our policies, and then helping me this evening to present the suggested revisions for your consideration. And so going about this alphabetically, I'd like to recognize Ms. Carrie Ash. She was one of our parents on the committee. Ms. Jan Axford, another parent. Our very own Mr. Tom Bramley, our Director of Transportation. Mrs. Ann Bridges, who's a teacher at Plum Grove and our CTC Vice President. Mrs. Sue Gehring, our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. Mrs. Jennifer Grosh, Principal of Marion Jordan Elementary School. Mr. Doug Harder, Assistant Principal of Carl Sandburg Junior High, Mrs. Julie Holdman, Parent and President, Northwest Suburban Council PTA and PTSA. She was just recognized this evening, 2016 Outstanding Volunteer of the Year. I'd like to think that this was the cherry on top, which kind of pushed her over the edge, but that's just me. Thank you, Julie. Ms. Kelly Pfeiffer, who's a teacher at Carl Sandburg, Dr. Laura Swanlin, who's our coordinator and psychology representative, Mr. Matt Warren, principal of Winston Campus Junior High, Mr. Scott Woldman, CTC president, and then Mrs. Jennifer Deutsch, district legal counsel. Jennifer, as another special mention, really helped me facilitate this important process, provided us with sage counsel, which once again, led to great conversations in what's before you. So the administration and the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee is recommending that the Board of Education reviews and considers adopting the revised policy language as presented.
I know that it was a lot to go through. Has everyone, any questions, any comments? Do you agree with? This is our first reading of these.
Correct. Yeah, so
policies.
if you have any concerns, we won't have it for a second reading until it's in the form that you like, but yeah.
No, it's pretty extensive.
Yeah.
Pretty extensive. Okay.
I mean, it looks like most of this is just based on making sure that the safety, you're trying to prevent excessive suspensions and stuff unless there's a known threat to the school. I think that's kind of the proper balance that you're trying to put together.
That is true. Senate Bill 100 requires districts to look at non-exclusionary disciplinary practices such as out-of-school suspensions to the maximum extent which is practical or reasonable. And what is reasonable is defined by the building level administrator.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Berman.
Thank you. Thank the committee as well. Okay. We're going to move on to citizens to address the board. Before we begin, we'll now open our meeting for public comment. Please remember, this is not a dialogue between you and the board. If you have a specific issue which requires a response, Superintendent Thompson will get back to you. Please state your name and identify any group that you represent. And please limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. If someone previously has articulated something with which you agree, please state that you agree rather than reiterating the entire comment. Finally, avoid comments specific to any person, student, or staff member, respecting their right to privacy. This is not the forum to comment on personnel issues. And our first speaker this evening is Jane Van Wolvelier.
My comments this evening are directed toward the contract that has just been voted into place. And before I get too far into my comments, I want to encourage my fellow Palatine residents to not be frustrated or upset with the teachers of our schools. I am confident in saying that if any of you were called into your boss's office and were told that you would be given a 2.5% increase for the next 4 years and a 4% increase for the 6 years after that, with a guaranteed job for those 10 years, you'd smile, say thanks, and walk away. That's all our teachers have done. They were presented a sweet deal, said thanks, and walked away. Your anger and frustration should be focused on the superintendent, the director of human resources, the director of finance, and the school board seated before you. I have been coming to school board meetings for 12 years. Occasionally, I come forward, state my discontent with decisions made by our boards. The administration and the Board of District 15 have once again shown that they have absolutely no respect nor feeling of obligation toward the taxpayers of District 15. The groundwork of this unprecedented 10-year contract was being laid in June of 2015 with the appointment of Lisa Nuss as the position of Director of Human Resources. When she was hired, Dr. Thompson is quoted as saying, "Whether union president or personnel administrator, we are all on the same team." Just a gentle reminder, Dr. Thompson, if you were all on the same team, your teachers and staff would not feel a need to have a union represent them. You are not on the same team. You, Dr. Thompson, were hired by persons representing the taxpayers of this district. Where is our representation? When Ms. Nuss was hired, she did not fulfill the requirements of the job description. Excuse me.
No, excuse me. In the comments, I've asked you to please, we do not mention a specific person.
I sincerely understand that.
Okay, and I would ask you to respect that.
That I, as a citizen of this town, as a taxpayer of this town, am entitled to state factual information which has been stated in publication.
Carry on, you're using your 5 minutes.
Okay, I know this is going to be
When Ms. Nuss was hired,
contentious,
she did
but
not
please.
fulfill the requirements of the job description. You stated that the job requires an administrative license. You then stated that she would have 12 months to obtain this license. Has this license been obtained? If so, when? If she does not have the license, is she legally qualified to negotiate a contract on behalf of the taxpayers of District 15? You, Dr. Thompson, publicly stated that there was no application process. In your words, I asked Lisa Nuss to take the position. How can we taxpayers not feel that this entire contract negotiation is a farce? This contract is not solely on the back of Dr. Thompson. The board sitting before me has been extremely negligent in their duties to represent the people of District 15. There was absolutely no open discussion regarding any of this contract until the night it was voted upon. In fact, it is documented that the first board discussion didn't begin until March 9th. How can any of you expect us to believe you put any effort into looking out for the best interests of the taxpayers when it took you less than a month to negotiate a 10-year contract? In fact, I wonder quite seriously if any negotiation occurred. Or did each of you simply get out your rubber stamp, take the lazy man's way out, and simply say yay? When the life of this contract expires, Dr. Thompson will have retired. I suspect Ms. Nuss will get some type of early retirement. The board members will be long gone, and we, the taxpayers of this district, will be stuck cleaning up the mess that they have created. Finally, if all of this contract is on the up and up, why has the rough draft not been made public? If, as stated, all that is left to be done is the dotting of the I's and the crossing of the T's, why is it still not available to the public or the press? He who has nothing to hide, hides nothing. Quite frankly, I'm not sure why I keep thinking my words will eventually fall upon open ears, that respect will be shown to those vocalizing dissatisfaction, or that an honest,
Ms. Wolvelier, your time is
open
up.
dialogue will
Ms.
ever be an
Wolvelier,
actual
your time is up.
occurrence. At
Ms.
one of these
Wolvelier, your
meetings,
time is up.
I have lived my life
Ms.
believing the
Wolvelier, your time is
inherent
up. You've had
nature
your 5
of
minutes.
humans is good.
Ms. Wolvelier, you've had
So
your 5
I'll
minutes.
keep trying to persuade those to listen to the
Ms.
people of
Wolvelier,
Palatine and act.
Your time
accordingly.
is up. Thank you.
Our second speaker is Becky Booth.
Dr. Thompson and members of the board, I'm here tonight missing a special event for one of my grandchildren to show how strongly I do not support the recent 10-year deal with teachers. And I would like to add, I am not swayed with emotion by the media. I have prepared some fact-based information I think I would like to share with you, and what I would like to call critical thinking on this subject. Our broke state's folly should inform local school districts that making expedient financial promises can bring ruinous results. The state's dispute about education funding should also warn local school districts about dangers in long-range planning that assumes a status quo such as past state funding. Climate change abounds in Springfield. What if legislators create a new system with local property taxes no longer funding local schools? How would you keep the promises in your 10-year contract? Even if the system doesn't make that change, local property tax revenue is not a given. Look at Motorola. Who would have predicted its demise 10 years ago? Lots of change can occur in 10 years. That's why it's best not to make promises you don't know can be kept. Another thing I do not support is the announced rate of increase for teacher salaries. Do the math, and the problem with this contract is obvious. Who can afford to pay the bill? Not the homeowners whose own salary increases fall far short of the glorious increases pledged to our teachers. And the retirement incentive intended to reduce the most expensive teacher salaries. Deja vu. Remember the lessons about pension spiking from our state's fiasco? Even if our broke state does not figure out a way to throw these pension promises back to the local districts that created them, we taxpayers lose when the pensions are spiked. Full disclosure, I am a former teacher, and I do support fair compensation to attract and hold good ones for my own children and grandchildren in District 15, but fair to everyone. In short, in a climate of great economic uncertainty, the 10-year contract apparently creates a climate of great entitlement for a chosen few and a dismal climate for taxpayers. Forging ahead, as we heard tonight, the district plans to build 2 new schools and ask for our support to pass a referendum, according to the Daily Herald. We are also reminded that the district owns a farm where one of these schools can be built. That must be where you've been making sure your district residents are not advised of details of your many plans, or the union's influence among you. The proverbial mushroom farm. I hope this board will not be remembered for making District 15 known for red flags or red ink instead of blue ribbons. Hopefully, you will be remembered for finally awakening the public to pay attention to how you operate and take a stand. I recognize I would be wasting my breath if this board was the only audience here. I came here tonight to join others moved to action by the board's most recent and preposterous abuse of power, a 10-year unaffordable teacher's contract conceived with the teachers' union itself. Kudos to District 15 residents who have been taking a stand against the board's lack of transparency, disregard for taxpayers, and unprecedented alliance with the teachers union. Opposing your district machine won't be an easy task for us. There's already an army of district employees and union and other district supporters. These folks do turn out to vote for district referendums. They also elect school board candidates who can rubber stamp the status quo of district leadership. While the board and Superintendent Scott go back to business as usual, cranking out PR propaganda, we need to activate more taxpayers to wake up and speak up and get to the polls. Let's stand up together to this district's longtime agenda of secrecy and control. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Ed Booth.
I would greet you all personally, but since I'm on the clock, I will refrain from that. Just simply say that my name is Ed Booth, and like many here tonight, I'm a stakeholder in District 15. I'm a taxpayer. I'm also a voter, but there are so few of us, 9% in the last election, that it hardly seems worth mentioning. Voter apathy is what allows board members to keep their jobs year in and year out, and create the kind of a contract that brought so many of us here tonight, as I heard by the applause from my wife. Actually, though, I was indirectly invited here tonight by the superintendent himself. I'm here to deliver a message to him, but before I do, I have a helpful suggestion to offer the board. Some of you may not be aware of it, but the board often relies on help from others. Amazingly, even though the board consists of highly respected business and professional people, plus not one but two attorneys, they recently felt the need to enlist the help of she who must not be named, the newly hired Assistant Superintendent for Personnel and Human Services, to play a leading role in negotiating a new contract for their favorite stakeholders, the teachers. You see, she who must not be named is the former president of the teachers union. The board must have wanted to be extra sure that this new contract would please and delight the teachers. You know, as a father of two daughters who've been married, I guess it's sort of like turning to an expensive bridal consultant. Just, make sure your daughter's wedding is the stuff dreams are made of. Well, the contract must be the stuff dreams are made of, at least for the teachers. But it's so secret that no one except the board and the teachers union bosses have seen any details of it. Exactly what you want to do to surprise your daughter on her wedding day. But still, there's something not quite right about the new District 15 form of negotiation. It's not really two opposite sides, each representing their own interests and working together to hammer out an agreement. It's really more like a couple of kids who are raiding the cookie jar while mom's away at work, except for the fact that these cookies are our tax dollars. But back to my helpful suggestion. And I saw it on the agenda when we came in. I really applaud you. If you go to the District 15 website also, right at the top of the first page, you'll see the mission statement for the district. I read it the other day, and I think that it just doesn't quite exactly accurately describe the mission of the district as practiced. So I'm offering my help in rewriting it, so that it does more accurately reflect it. Possibly she who must not be named might have helped with it, but apparently she's otherwise occupied. Anyway, just to remind everyone, here's what it says right now. The mission of School District 15 is to produce world-class learners by building a connected learning community. Sounds good. But after considering how this board operates as an adjunct to the teachers union, and ignoring the legitimate interests of the taxpayers who supposedly are also stakeholders, here's how I propose to make the mission statement more accurate. The mission of School District 15 is to produce world-class salaries and pensions for its administrators and teachers by building a secretive, interconnected community of union bosses and administrators in collusion with cooperative board members. Oh yes, before my time is up, the message Dr. Thompson indirectly invited me here to deliver. He extended the invitation to me with a quote published in the Daily Herald on May 8th. Superintendent Thompson reportedly said, and I'm quoting Paperhead, "The reaction from residents has been supportive." and he has recently received, and has received only a handful of emails criticizing the deal. Well, sir, I'm here in person. This resident taxpayer and voter is not at all supportive either of the content of the deal, which neither I nor any other outside has seen, or the manner in which the current proposed yet already accepted but not yet finished one-sided pseudo-negotiated teacher's contract has been handled to this point, which I have seen. Folks, let's get real. The teachers already have a union to represent their interests. We taxpayers need a board that will represent ours. By their recent actions, it's obvious that the current one doesn't seem to want that job. Let's do something about it at every future election. And in the meantime, let's be vigilant.
Peter Dombrowski.
Wow, everybody's been so eloquent. This is going to be tough to follow. Good evening, District 15 Board of Education. I am Pete Dombrowski. I'm a resident in Schaumburg. I come here tonight to provide this board with my perspective. I want to thank you for your service as elected representatives of the community. Your time away from your family is neither fully appreciated nor fully understood. The purpose of my visit to your meeting tonight is to voice concern over the repercussions of the 10-year contract that District 15 is defending as beneficial to the community. This defense has led to a loss of confidence in our elected representatives throughout the region, and I do not make this statement lightly. On April 30th, the Chicago Tribune published Board President Babcock's reply to public criticism. This reply includes the line, "It was a pleasure to put in place the kind of fiscal planning that successful businesses do." This is not reassuring. Contracts are legal obligations that should never be entered into lightly. The Detroit News reported in 2005 that the automotive industry was suffering when manufacturers agreed to job banks for employees in the 1980s to prevent work stoppages and labor uncertainty. As automation and technology sped forward, workers were delegated to crossword puzzles and remote cafeterias. These employees in limbo drained company resources and had minimal opportunity to be productive until the contract expired in 2007. In 2006, the camera phone with 3 megapixels was cutting edge. The first iPad launched only 6 years ago, and the impact to education is still creating ripples. Last night, an academic scholar from Hoffman Estates High School suggested that faster tools would be her only improvement on her 4 years of education. This board cannot begin to predict technology in 2020, let alone 2026. Textbooks are being replaced by tablets. Publishers are shifting costs from one-time expenses of hard copy textbooks to per-user annual fees. Can one recorded lesson replace a classroom teacher? Will a law pass that allows students to access education from home, reducing the number of teachers and increasing their compensation? Recently, Senator Matt Murphy was interviewed for Connected to Chicago by WLS. This radio interview was transcribed and quoted by Eric Zorn in the Chicago Tribune on Monday, May 9th. The tape from Mayor Emanuel was, "Just the other day, Palatine agreed to a 10-year deal with their teachers for 4% pay raises each year. The only way you could come to that agreement was if you knew that the state of Illinois was going to pay for your teachers' pensions. If you were any school district around the state and you were under the same obligation we're under in Chicago, you could not do that because you'd be responsible for your own teacher pensions." We have a great champion in Senator Murphy. This board's decision to enter into a 10-year contract has resulted in distractions and has increased the divide between suburban and urban school funding. Would this board support a 10-year Chicago Teachers Union contract? I know I would not. It would neither be fair to short teachers in years of prosper nor overcompensate teachers in years of belt tightening. Finally, I asked this board how it was considered that in relation to the para law. September 1st this year, all Illinois school districts are required to incorporate the new teacher evaluation systems. This Board of Education, in faithful service to the Palatine community, honestly can't predict that teacher performance evaluations will go smoothly statewide, and this won't impact teachers' unions throughout the state, including here with this contract. I suggest that the District 15 Board of Education is not being a faithful protector of school district assets. Why not 3%? Why not 2%? These are the questions that you cannot possibly speculate for 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, or even 2026. To suggest otherwise is unfaithful to the community of Palatine residents. Some of you are elected, others appointed. Either way, the responsibility or oath is the same. Thank you again for your service, and I encourage you all to revisit this contract from a perspective of caution versus novel trend setting. Thank you.
Frank Skorsky.
Hello, board members, superintendent, media, friends, neighbors, anyone else that wants to listen. I'm an old man. I was there in '68 for the riots. My friend, a Yale graduate, was walking with the guys from Rolling Stone, taking pictures of Abby Hoffman. I thought it was just an anti-war protest. No, it wasn't. It was the birthplace of the teachers' union. If it wasn't for Vietnam, we wouldn't have a teachers' union. Women. I may be a sexist because I'm calling them women. By definition, by God's definition. Used to be 95% of teachers. Fast forward to the Vietnam War. 18-year-olds who dropped out of school were sent with a one-way ticket to Vietnam. Those who were blessed to go to college got a deferment. They then could get a master's degree, stay in school. They then could get a doctorate, stay in school. Someone came up with the brilliant idea of giving them a deferment if they taught. All of a sudden, they started teaching. And guys who never wanted to teach in their life started teaching. They weren't about to wipe noses. They weren't about to hug kids. They came in. They missed a lot of Thursdays because they were out with me on Rush Street. The bottom line is they entered the school system, created a teachers union, and they created junior high, middle schools, blah, blah, blah. And administration used to be 3 guys in a grammar school. The principal, shop coach, gym coach. The rest were all girls. They did a great job. We were #1 in reading, writing, and arithmetic, but since we had the teachers union, we've gone to hell. We're 23, 5, and 7. Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, the Asian countries are passing us by because they don't have a teachers union. Where in the hell do teachers get off with tenure? I am against any tenure contract. We didn't give Obama a 10-year contract. They're afraid to give Trump a 4-year contract. I don't know what's happening in my country. I feel I'm losing it. But I'm not about to go down without a fight. I got another 30 years in me, and you guys will see me again. I remember back when the teachers union gave Mr. Chapman, Mr. Eckert, and Mr. Bokar $13,000 to run for the school board. The first thing those 3 guys did was they ran through a big teacher's contract increase in '09 when the rest of us were losing our jobs, losing our homes, losing our cars. Teachers were taken care of. I see no reason for a teachers union anymore. In the old days, they had 60-hour work weeks. If you lost an arm, shut up, I'll get someone else. There was no overtime, there was no OSHA, there was no nothing. I am the employer of the teachers, and I am not an Uyghur. They work in air-conditioned, heated, beautifully ventilated classrooms. What about teachers and the fact that they are on the way out? They're being replaced with electronics. They're going to be replaced with vouchers. You guys have a voucher? What if vouchers are passed by any of the conservatives that hopefully will get elected? This school enrollment could go to hell. COD in most of the colleges are watching classroom attendance go down, electronic goes up. We don't need maybe all these classrooms. We don't need teachers. The problem is very serious. If Janet Reno, the chick from Brooklyn, doesn't know what the hell interest rates are going to be in 6 months, how can you tell me that if you give teachers a 40% increase, you tell me it's only going to be 1% per year? Come on. I mean, we've been lied to by OMB, we've been lied to by Obama, we've been lied to by Holder, we've been lied to by Hillary, we've been lied to by a lot of people, including some good Republicans who I shall not name because they let me down, including our state rep. Okay? I mean our U.S. rep, not our state rep. Our U.S. rep has let us down. He's had the purse strings for 6 years and done nothing. And you guys, if you pass this, I'm telling you, there's going to be hell to pay. I intend to have a RICO investigation to find out what's going on and to follow the money from the teachers union to this board. Thank you very much. I can't say enough. My friends and neighbors have already said it more eloquently than I can ever do it, so I'm just going to reserve my time to Vicki and anyone else.
Vicki Wilson.
Good evening. When news of this 10-year deal hit the press, many of us in the community were shocked at this unprecedented move. The deal commits a community for an entire decade to a contract that approaches $1 billion in salary and benefits. Do you honestly believe the 10-year time frame and the reported terms are truly the best thing for our community? I'm here to remind you that it's your duty to provide the community your specific reasons as to why you feel this is the best way to manage the limited financial resources of our community. The community you have a duty to represent. So far, all we've gotten is denial of Freedom of Information Act requests and vague reassurances from those who unfortunately have not shown themselves in the past to be trustworthy stewards of the community's resources. For starters, did any of you choose to participate in the negotiations? Because from what I can gather from the documentation available, none of you did. 4 years ago, the community had 3 elected board members on the negotiating team. Now instead, it appears this important work was left up to Mr. Adamczyk, Superintendent Thompson, and Ms. Nuss. To have an honest negotiation, there must be people representing the interests of each stakeholder group. Was anyone representing the interests of the people in this community who are employed in the private sector? Illinois Policy Institute wrote when analyzing this situation in our district, median income for private sector workers in the Palatine area has grown only 0.68% each year between 2009 and 2014. At that rate, income growth has not even kept up with inflation, meaning the real value of private sector employee earnings has actually fallen for District 15 residents. By contrast, we know one of the few things that you have told us is the contract guarantees raises every year approximately 2.5% in the first 4 and 4% in the last 6 years. What we also know is that teacher pay includes 3 components: base, step, and lane. What isn't clear is whether the 2.5 and 4% numbers are base increases or base plus step increases combined. We do know for sure it doesn't include lane changes. So what are the real percent raises? We know it's not 2.5 and 4, which has already been established will far outpace private sector increases. So what is it? Because it's all very unclear and misleading. This is why it's so important to have every stakeholder group represented at the negotiating table. When you only have those who make their living inside the bubble of public education, critical perspectives are missing and consideration for those outside the bubble is non-existent. Do you know what it's like for those living outside the public education bubble? For senior citizens not on a government pension? For those living paycheck to paycheck? For those who have been laid off because they don't have guaranteed employment? And here's one segment that I think is very often forgotten. What about the teachers in the private sector? They are a very important part of our community. Have those teachers been considered? We've heard tonight quite a bit about Ms. Nuss, the past president of the union, who was one of the people negotiating on behalf of the private sector workers in the community.
The insanity and the conflict of interest that presents cannot be overstated. Here's a great idea. Draw up a contract, dot the I's and cross the T's, and release it to the public before you vote. That exact legislation keeps being proposed in Springfield, yet the Democrat supermajority won't let it see the light of day. You shouldn't need state legislation to do the right thing here. But yet, all we get is the ease with which you are denying Freedom of Information Act requests, and that should frighten every citizen of this community. We've heard you state over and over, Superintendent, that the increase in cost will be less than 1%. Yet when asked to substantiate that claim, we are refused the details. When good citizens of the community ask valid questions and are shut out, you cannot blame others like the press for the distrust that ensues. We are very curious how this mathematical feat of less than 1% will be accomplished. Will headcount be reduced, thereby increasing class sizes? We have no idea. Another thing we know is that there is no reopener in this contract. Both sides must agree to opening it and renegotiating. The community has no say. No matter where one stands, that is indefensible. The community has been completely left out and common sense has left the building. This is disrespectful to those of us in the private sector who prefer transparency and respect for all stakeholders over shady backroom deals. Thank you.
Thorson.
Board and beleaguered taxpayers of Palatine. I am a 28-year resident of Palatine and was shocked to see in the paper that this board considered a 10-year contract. In my business, I've advised many businesses, and I've never seen a business go up to 10 years on such a major contract. Have the risks been addressed for this 10-year contract? How many districts in the U.S. have had a contract this long, and what has been their experience? I believe you are unfairly placing the risks of this deal on the backs of the taxpayers of Palatine. I echo my predecessor, and has common sense left Palatine.
Joe Clark.
Board, I don't have any prepared things like I heard earlier, but I just want to make a few comments. This contract is already signed, stamped. There's nothing we can do about it. That's my understanding. This reminds me of Obamacare. Nancy Pelosi. Well, let's vote for it and we'll see what's in it after we're done. How could you guys pass a contract that you don't even still know what's in it? The I's aren't dotted, the T's aren't crossed. That's your words. We've got to see what we're going to finish here with the wording. No out for the taxpayers. Even in Russia, when they were under communist rule, they only had a 5-year plan. I don't know where you people think you've come from. You don't represent the taxpayers of Palatine. Never have. I live on a 12-house cul-de-sac. 3 people have just moved out of the state of Illinois. 2 more are going to move within the next year. We got to get out of this town, and you're part of the problem. Right. That's all I got to say.
Sharon Branch.
Good evening. I did not come prepared to speak. I did not type a speech, but I wanted to first thank you for your service and say that I am a taxpayer, a homeowner. I'm a mother of 3 kids in our District 15, an aunt of many more. I have spent the last 5 years volunteering in many schools in our district, not just the schools that my kids attend, but other schools as well, because I am passionate about education. And I am going to respectfully disagree with some of the negative comments we've heard tonight. True, we don't have the contract in front of us, but I think that's common practice in any business to have lawyers review before it's released to public and before it's signed. I would also like to just say that I am very excited about the possible land swap, and I'm, as a parent, really pleased that we are looking at what the board is looking to do in terms of adding new buildings and really helping serve especially our diverse population in Palatine. I think that the direction that we are headed is going to be incredible for all of the students in our district. And I can speak for the people on my block and in my neighborhood, and we are all taxpayers too, and people are very excited and hopeful and optimistic. And so I'm here to say thank you, and I hope this momentum keeps going forward.
Mike Petkunas?
It's pretty close. I don't know, once you look at it, it's okay. It's pronounced Petkunas.
Okay.
Thanks, Petty. I don't have to sit down, do I?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Do I, okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
Can I still look this way too, though?
No, you have
Just
to
have to look here?
this is addressing
Okay.
the board.
Just a couple of comments. Twice in my life as a private sector employee, I've worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies where I've seen them offer incentives for people to take an early retirement, and simultaneously it could be a disincentive if they didn't take it. And I've never seen that, put into a public contract before. And I want to thank you guys for having the foresight for putting in this one. And I'm referring to the age 60 or 35 year service that's in the contract, right? Where if people stay too late, it behooves them to retire earlier so we can replace veteran teachers with younger ones. I don't know how much money that's going to save us, but I imagine it's going to be quite a sum. Would you agree? Have you guys done any type of studies on it? It's more than a little bit, it's a lot. So I want to say thanks for having the foresight and the courage, to do that. Because if you would have been offering 5 2-year contracts or 3 3s and a 1 or whatever, I'm sure you would have never got that, that give back. So thanks. And I've seen it work twice, and it's worked out very well. To the private, publicly traded companies that I've worked for, it was a great benefit to the stockholders, and as a resident of Palatine, I guess a shareholder, right? I think it's going to be great for us in the long term as well too. So I wanted to say thanks. The other thing I wanted to make, just as a story, I had it was quite a while ago, a guy I knew had a tough union negotiation coming up. And he had to negotiate with the Teamsters and the operating engineers and the bakers, confectioners, and tobacco workers union at the same time. Recession, money's tight, his company didn't have a lot to give, they wanted a raise. And what I thought as a stroke of genius, he promoted a union steward to management, so that union steward was then on his negotiating team. So, the union steward was now on the private sector side, the company's side. He knew the people, that he was negotiating with. He knew what they wanted, but he was also able to speak their language and tell them, hey, in order to get a little bit, you're going to have to give a little bit. And so I think the, personnel changes that I've read about and a lot in either the paper or a lot in the op-ed section, have maybe been a little bit misconstrued, but I have to congratulate you guys on it's only from personal experience that I've seen it work. Great move. Yeah, I think, your first instinct is to think, oh, there's, some secret smoking gun. I'm a newcomer to Palatine. I've only lived here 20 years. I've put 3 kids through 15. I've got 1 left into 11. I know we have a lot of challenges coming up. With personnel, we've got schools that are packed to the gill. We have teachers that when they want to go to a planned period, you either have to go to their car or sit in a room, right, with another teacher because there's no room. We need the space. We've got kids that we need to catch up a little bit. So when they're, in 7th grade or freshman in high school, they're at the same level. I look at this as, where do I want Palatine to be 20 years from now? And so I think the things you've done, and yeah, I don't like my property tax bill. I thought my last reassessment was in lira, or pesos. I couldn't believe that it was in dollars. But I also know it's not the school board. This is a 30 or 40-year problem we've had in Illinois, and I would encourage everybody to call their state senator, Matt Murphy, and Tom Morrison, their representative, every day, and tell them that, no, you're not going to take any more that the state of Illinois has abandoned the school systems, and that they've left it all on our shoulders. And I know it's frustrating for you to have to, deal with these budgets without state support. It's tough for me as a taxpayer and a homeowner to have to pay for it. And so I agree with everybody else. My income hasn't gone up. My house has gone down in value, and somehow magically, the taxes are higher. But if the state took full responsibility for, their share of school funding, we would not be having this discussion tonight. And I think I would like to see if a lot of my fellow citizens start to take their frustrations and anger away from here, tilt it towards Springfield, and say, hey, enough is enough. We want our fair share of state revenue. By the way, I don't think we should have to pay for the malfeasance of other school districts in the state either. So, good job, guys. I think you did. I know it was risky. I think it's going to work out great. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Kathy Amatuli? Kathy? Yeah.
I really didn't prepare anything much either. And as I watched these children get the awards, I thought, how wonderful that we live in a school district like this. I've lived here 34 years. And the industry I'm in 2008 was decimated. As a matter of fact, my company actually closed its doors on December the 4th with no notice to 400 employees. Fortunately, I was employed right away. However, there's many people that I think when we talk about all these increases, and especially with, as you said, we're being reassessed, and with all the other levies that are going on, we forget many, many people are underemployed or have never even come back from 2008. I, for one, I know made $15,000 less for 3 years. So you try to figure that out, try to decide who you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I have a hard time when I looked at the one statement that said this contract cannot be renegotiated. Look what happened with the state of Illinois. I moved here in '79, right, I think when that was happening, or perhaps it happened right before. The state is broke, and I worry about Palatine. I wonder how long I'll be able to live here. I bought my house in 2003. It is, as so many other people, it's undervalued now. And I just can't keep watching the taxes go up and, every other, the Comcast, all your other bills go up and say, how can I continue to live here? I'll have to sell my home. And I know there's many other people just like me. But I thank you for your time. And I know this is difficult for everybody. But I do worry about a 10-year contract. And I wish it had been more open. I remember when Mr. Millar was up here, we talked about it, I saw it in the paper, and I felt better about the negotiations than I do about this one right now. Thank you.
Tim McLaughlin.
Probably not going to speak as eloquently as some of the other folks have done here tonight. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Thank you very much for your time this evening. To get started, 4 years ago, it felt to me and a few others in the community that the board and the union were trying to slip a fast one by quietly introducing late start for elementary and junior high school students. It took what was termed as overwhelming opposition in order to have the schedule adjusted to the needs of households that couldn't accommodate a late start. Many parents need to, have their children at school before 9 o'clock so that they can actually get to their jobs by 9 o'clock. Anyway, took a lot of doing. I was one of the people who was deposed for that. It feels like this kind of thing is happening again, and I'm really not very pleased about it. My wife would be much more eloquent about this. She's much more informed, but she is at work this evening. She's been instrumental in our PTA at Virginia Lake, and is very pleased. And for the record, I'm very pleased with the current state of our teachers. I love my Virginia Lake teachers and the administration there. Also with the teachers and administration here at Sunlight. However, the available information about the contract should concern taxpayers. The contract's 10-year duration is unusually long. The contract guarantees raises that vastly outpace local taxpayers' own income growth. I am personally concerned that the longtime president of the teachers union was one of the 3 people negotiating with the union on behalf of the district. Approximately 2.5% of raises in each of the first 4 years, along with 4% raises in each of the last 6 years. I don't know any of the people that I work with in the private sector who have received anything like this in the past 10 years for their salaries. It has been mentioned earlier that by contrast, median income for private sector workers in Palatine has grown at only 0.68%. It's not really a sustainable kind of an idea here. Under the new 10-year contracts, District 15 taxpayers who already face stagnant earnings and decreased purchasing power will be contractually bound to provide increasing salaries even if 4 or more years down the line, the economy cannot sustain such increases. Right now in Illinois, we are already experiencing that this is the sort of financial pitfall that is more than mere speculation. And I think your field trip to Springfield, Mr. Seifert, certainly can attest to that. I am very concerned that this contract will lock the district into a deal with immediate and long-lasting benefits for the union, leaving taxpayers to face the future financial consequences. I feel that the current negotiations are slanted considerably in favor of the union. The current head of the district's Human Resources Department left her position as president of the Classrooms Teachers Council of District 15 in June of 2015 and started her school district job in July 2015. The superintendent admitted that there was no application process and that he asked this person, who shall not be named, to consider taking the position. Only months later, this person began bargaining with the very union she formerly led. To me, it just sounds very, very much like a conflict of interest. Thereafter, it was up to this new hire, Superintendent Thompson, who had handpicked this person and one other district representative to negotiate with the teachers union. Everything that I have read about this contract makes me wonder who on the negotiating committee was looking out for the interests of the District 15 taxpayers. In summary, I feel that the school district has negotiated a deal that will lock taxpayers into a 10-year contract with salary increases while taxpayer earnings cannot even possibly keep up with inflation. Thank you.
Mrs. Serafino.
Robin? Or Mr.?
Oh, sir, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
My name is Sergio Serafino. I lived in Palatine for 22 years. 3 of my children attended Virginia Lake, and I always appreciate and continue to appreciate the work that the teachers do for our children. However, today I feel compelled to talk to the board. It's my first time. I have attended many board meetings in the past. But today when the superintendent said that many people used motions that were unnecessarily raised by the media, I felt a bit disrespected because as a taxpayer, I have the right to make an interpretation of what I see in the paper or in another media, another outlets of information. And what I see is the proposal of a contract that makes no sense to anybody who, like me, I have negotiated many contracts with unions. I do not work for the private industry. I work for the government, and I have negotiated many contracts with the unions, different unions. Never, ever, never we thought in signing a contract that will last 10 years. Nobody can predict what the economy will be in 10 years. Strapping us, the taxpayers, with a contract that apparently confirms or guarantees this level of salary increase for the teachers or any other worker, I believe is irresponsible. And I will please ask you as a representatives, and I thank you all for the time that you commit to represent us, to reconsider a contract. Thank you.
Alicia Krippinger.
Good evening. I am from State Senator Matt Murphy's office, and I am here tonight to read a message to District 15 from State Senator Matt Murphy and Representative Tom Morrison. Together, we feel compelled to share our disappointment with the board's rushed approval of the controversial 10-year contract that has outraged our constituents, the local taxpayers in District 15. We appreciate the board's stated goal of planning out future expenses to save money. However, locking the district area taxpayers and future school boards into a 10-year labor contract is not the way to proceed. This unprecedented contract was completed behind closed doors, giving taxpayers no real opportunity to weigh in. It provides a 2.5% annual increase for the first 4 years and 4% raises for each of the next 6 years, utilizing provisions in current state law to boost teachers' pensions. The new contract also increases sick days from 15 to 24 per year, giving teachers quicker access to early retirement, putting an even greater strain on the state's pension system. But controlling pension costs is exactly what state government must do to get its fiscal house in order. Sincere efforts are underway to limit end-of-career salary spikes and other benefit sweeteners for public employees that are strangling the state budget and its taxpayers. There is no way this board can anticipate the success of those efforts, especially over 10 years. If the bipartisan negotiations in Springfield lead to reforms, the taxpayers of Palatine District 15 will be on the hook for greater costs. Currently, District 15 gets about $20 million annually from the state of Illinois. If there's anything certain in Springfield these days, is that nothing is certain. School funding reform, potential formula changes, and budget constraints may impact the district's share of funding, leaving District 15 on the hook again. Locally, median income for private sector workers in the Palatine area has grown only 0.68% from 2009 to 2014, which is less than the rate of inflation. In other words, area taxpayers are not exactly in a position to bail out the school district should the school struggle to pay for these contract benefits. We strongly believe that teachers deserve to receive a fair contract, to be well compensated, and to be provided good benefits for the essential work that they do. But the school board is making promises that it will not be able to keep in the years to come. Thank you.
Edward Richter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for letting me speak. The lady that just spoke before me was a representative from Matt Murphy's office. I just got off, before I came here, I just got off a town hall meeting with Mr. Murphy, and one of the subjects was the taxing of Illinois and being the highest state in the country with real estate taxes. Where does your funding come from our taxes? Real estate. 70% of our taxes is the real estate. Our real estate taxes is from our school districts, District 15 and District 211. I've been following your board for the last 8 or 9 years and watching what's going on amongst the board, watching people come and go. Some of the people that are on the board today were voted out about 5 or 6 years ago. New board members came on board. With the lack of cooperation and intimidation, they all opted either to resign or not run for re-election. So we now have board members that are back on the board that were voted out originally. You guys have to control your spending. Teacher salary is one issue, but your just overall spending is out of control. That's what's driving everything in terms of the taxes, the pensions, the salaries, everything. This 10-year contract is just unprecedented and unrealistic. And my wife is ready to put the for sale sign out, along with another bunch of my neighbors and people that are upset about what the taxes are in this, not only this state, but in this district and Cook County. And you are part of that problem. So I thank you for letting me speak my piece, and good evening.
Okay, we are going to move on to action items. Item 16-530, the personnel report. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the May 11, 2016 personnel report as revised, including the following recommendation. Recommendation for discipline, letter of reprimand, 5-day suspension, and last chance agreement for Tosca Robinson.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Egbert?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye. Motion carries. Item 16-531, approval to release the final 2016 to 26 salary schedules. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the release of the final 2016-2026 salary schedules as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Egbert?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye. Motion carries. Item 16-532, resolution to authorize the notice of publication of public hearing on the adoption of fiscal year 2016 amended budget. May I have the motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the resolution to authorize the notice of publication of public hearing on the adoption of the fiscal year 2016 amended budget as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Khan?
Aye.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye.
Egbert?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 16-533, resolution to authorize the notice of publication for public hearing on the adoption of the fiscal year 2017 tentative budget.
I make a motion to approve the resolution to authorize the notice of publication of public hearing on the adoption of the fiscal year 2017 tentative budget as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Morrison?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Babcock?
Aye.
Egbert?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 16534, extension of employee benefit consultant contract. May I have the suggested motion, please?
Make a motion to approve a 2-year extension of the employee benefit consultant contract expiring June 30th, 2016 with the Greater Chicago Group for an annual fee of $60,000 as recommended. The renewed agreement will be effective from July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Seifert,
Aye.
Gurian,
Aye.
Babcock,
Aye.
Egbert,
Aye.
Kahn,
Aye.
Morrison.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 16535, request for proposal for Chromebooks and Chrome device license. And Chromebooks. I think I just did it. Suggested motion, please.
I make a motion to award the contracts for the Chromebooks with Chrome device licenses. Chromebook carts 16016, request for proposal as follows. Heartland Business Systems of Lyle, Illinois, $108,680. Riverside Technologies, North Sioux City, South Dakota, $479,100. Riverside Technologies, North Sioux City, South Dakota, $76,496.30, for a total RFP award of $664,276.30 as recommended.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Gurian,
Aye.
Babcock,
Aye.
Egbert,
Aye.
Kahn,
Aye.
Morrison,
Aye.
Seifert.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 16536, bid award food products and non-food supplies. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to award the contract for food products and non-food supplies bid 16-018 as follows. PFG Fox River, Montgomery, Illinois, $711,024.28. And Gordon Food Services, Grand Rapids, Michigan, $99,613.29. Total bid award, $810,637.57 as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
But are most, the rest of them getting out of this, the Cisco's, the US Foods? I know that merger was blocked, but
Cisco and U.S. Foods merger was blocked, and they have, we've been sending them bids
no
for
response.
the last 7 years, and they have never responded. So, and Cold Food
They're
Service,
limited.
which did respond to another one of our bids, chose not to respond on this bid as they're still having difficulty getting transportation up in this area from Quincy, Illinois.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Babcock,
Aye.
Egbert,
Aye.
Kahn,
Aye.
Morrison,
Aye.
Seifert,
Aye.
Gurian.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 16537, request for proposal desktop computers and accessories. May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to award the contracts for the desktop computers and accessories 16-020, request for proposal as follows. CDWG, Vernon Hills, Illinois, $35,910. Ace Computers of Elk Grove, $7,950. CDWG of Vernon Hills, $345. District 15 Microsoft License Agreement, $5,112, for a total RFP award of $49,317 as recommended.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Egbert,
Aye.
Kahn,
Aye.
Morrison, Seifert,
Aye.
Gurian,
Aye.
Babcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 16538, bid award Texas Instrument calculators. May I have the suggested motion, please?
Make a motion to award the contract for the Texas Instrument Calculators 16-022 to AFP Industries, Miami, Florida, for a total bid award amount of $18,792 as recommended. The recommendation is based on low bid meeting specifications.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Egbert,
Aye.
Kahn,
Aye.
Morrison, Seifert,
Aye.
Gurian,
Aye.
Babcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 16539, bid award laser bond paper. Suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to award the contract for the laser bond paper 16-024 to Veritiv, Addison, Illinois, for a total bid award amount of $137,700 as recommended. Recommendations are based on evaluations of samples and low bid vendors meeting specifications.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Con.
Aye.
Morrison.
Aye.
Seifert.
Aye.
Gurian.
Aye.
Babcock.
Aye.
Eckert.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 16, 540 bid award refrigerator delivery truck. Suggested motion, please.
I make a motion to award the refrigerator delivery truck bid 16-025 to Northwest Trucks, Inc., Palatine, Illinois, for a total bid award amount of $105,723. The recommendation is based on low bid meeting specification.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Morrison.
Aye.
Seifert.
Aye.
Gurian.
Aye.
Babcock.
Aye.
Eckert.
Aye.
Con.
Aye.
Motion carries. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent calendar? May I have the suggested motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Seifert.
Aye.
Gurian.
Aye.
Babcock.
Aye.
Eckert.
Aye.
Con.
Aye.
Morrison.
Aye.
This past period, we've had, looks like 7 or 8 requests for information through the Freedom of Information Act. On April 13, 2016, a request was received from North American Procurement Council. The response to this request was sent on April 20th. On April 15th, a request was received from Aaron Haggerty of the Daily Herald Media Group, Arlington Heights, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on April 22nd. On April 15th, a request was received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on April 22nd. On April 18th, the request was received from Diane Rado, Chicago Tribune, Chicago, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on April 22nd. On April 19th, the request was received from Scott Boucher, Rolling Meadows, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on April 26th. On April 20th, a request was received from Aaron Haggerty, Daily Herald Media Group, Arlington Heights, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on April 27th. On April 21st, a request was received from Tracy Salvatore, Schaumburg, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on April 21st. And on April 21st, a request was received from Chelsea Clark, National Council of Teacher Quality, Washington, D.C. The response to this request was sent on April 28th. Oh, I forgot there's a second page. I'm sorry. On April 25th, a request received from Tracy Salvatore, Schaumburg, Illinois. An extension letter was sent on May 2nd. The response is still pending. On April 25th, a request was received from Jennifer Terry, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request is sent on May 2nd. On April 28th, the request was received from Jake Griffin, our Assistant Managing Editor for Watchdog Reporting, Daily Herald, Arlington Heights, Illinois. Partial response and extension letter was sent on May 5th. The response to this request is still pending. On April 29th, a request received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. An extension letter was sent on May 6th. The response is still pending. April 29th, 2 requests were received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. An extension letter was sent on May 6th, and the response is still pending. On April 29th, the 3rd request was received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. Extension letter was sent on May 6th, and the response is still pending. On April 29th, a 4th request received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request is sent on May 6th. On April 29th, a 5th request was received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on May 6th. On May 3rd, a 6th request was received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request is pending. And we did receive 1 contribution from developers for impact fees from Village of Palatine in the amount of $22,698.30.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Did you get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned.